Looks like a good morning. Yesterday we recovered about 200 points from the lows on the Nifty, and right now straight off the bat up about 115 points on the Nifty. In fact, from yesterday's low, the Sensex itself has recovered about 1100 points.
Yes, absolutely, and the Nifty has recovered more than about 300 points. Today, of course, we've got the support of the global market. So Hang Seng, if you can pull that up, that's higher by close to about 400 points. The stocks which are rising as we speak are many of the metal names. You've got a JSW Steel, Tata Steel looking good. Oil marketing companies like HPCL, BPCL, IOC also on the rise. We'll discuss all these themes. Before that, a quick run through of the top headlines that we're tracking at this hour. Shaktikanta Das appointed as the new RBI governor. PSU banks and NBFCs rally as the new governor's stance on easing of liquidity will be keenly watched. Yes Bank jumps 4% ahead of the board meeting tomorrow, where Rana Kapoor's successor will be discussed.
Dr. Reddy sulks in trade today. The US Court of Appeals has said that the company cannot sell Suboxone generic. Currently, sales ban will remain in force to give Indivior time to challenge the November 20th appealed court decision.
Positive commentary coming in from the Persistent Systems Analyst Day yesterday. The management said that growth has started picking up. Some improvement could be visible in the next 2 quarters. They may even consider a buyback post Q3 of FY19.
Right, a word on the Nifty, which is now scaling higher about 115 points. It's interesting to see the options data as the Nifty is moving higher. Yesterday, we saw about 31,000 calls written on the puts written on the short side. That's telling you there is a fair amount of support. And as we speak, we have the 10,600 put, the 10,500 put, as well as the 10,300 puts. All of them should come up for you on your screen. And there we are seeing a fair amount of writing. 8 lakh shares added on the 10,500 put itself. So it'll be very interesting to see where we go from there, because yesterday we closed at the 50-day moving average of 10,545. Currently, we're very close to the 20-day moving average of 10,683. And on the higher levels, then we have the 200-day moving average as well, 10,751. So to get all this and more technical advice on the markets, we have Ashwini Gujral joining us. Ashwini, very close to the 20-day moving average. Do you think we're going to surpass that? Long should be carried?
See, with a very immediate style perspective, you can carry longs. We've been going above and below 20-day and 50-day moving averages for last 1 year. Basically it's 10 to 11,000. Now, last couple of days we had all sorts of negative triggers. Now, people expect that all kinds of financial loosening is way. That way, at higher levels you will see profit booking as well. So I don't think anything big fundamentally has changed, but for the moment it's a global risk, and some of the smaller stocks expect that they will get relief, and that is why since yesterday the mid cap and Nifty Junior etc., they have moved much better. So again, at higher levels you will, since 10,750 on the Nifty, maybe possibly 26,700, 800 on Bank Nifty, but definitely the smaller stocks, they could gain 15 to 25%, all those NBFCs, PSU banks, etc., because of this change at RBI. Having said that, on individual stocks, Financial is a buy with a stop of 432, target of 456. VIP Industries a buy with a stop of 535, target of 560. And JSPL is a buy with a stop of 148, target of 160.
In fact, we should pull up the intraday chart of JSPL. One of Ashwini's recommendations where the target price is 160. It's moving very smartly. So now that's higher by close to about 7%. In fact, even the other steel names, SAIL is up close to about 4%. And we were earlier talking about JSW Steel as well as Tata Steel. Both of them have rallied 2 to 3.5% respectively. Ashwini, in the morning you were talking about many of these consumption-related players. So now you've got a mix. You've added in a steel. You've got M&M Financial. Anything from the banking pack that you would recommend for a trade?
See, the smaller banks in terms of like PSU banks or Yes Bank or Kotak, which were kind of under the weather in the previous regime, they could move up. I don't think you are going to get big rallies on the larger banks. So that way, this entire thing is Mr. Shaktikanta Das rally. So if you want the size of the move, that will be available more on NBFCs, because that's where the 70-80% kind of damages have happened. On Bank Nifty, you're already, I think, up 1,000 points from the lows. So concentrate on smaller stocks for the day.
Right, Ashwini, before we let you go and ask for your disclosures, a word on a couple of these two-wheelers. Hero MotoCorp up 5%, Bajaj Auto up about 3% ahead of general elections, after elections yesterday. Do you think this is a place to be?
See, again, sort of consumption and, financing, which may be easily available. So similar story, but today is a day when direct plays of NBFCs, etc., likely do better.
Any disclosures?
Our clients could have, few of these NBFCs.
Okay. Thank you, Ashwini, for joining in. Let's move on. Sterlite Technology is a stock which is on our radar. Recently, there was a Haitong Securities note which was published on the 30th of November where they say that their discussion with industry participants in the optical fiber space suggests that optic fiber spot prices have corrected to nearly 30% and now are hovering hovering around the 2015-2016 levels. Let's find out what the pricing outlook remains with Anupam Jindal, the CFO of the company. Anupam, if you could just tell us what's happening in the optic fiber market globally. Have prices come down by nearly about 30%? What is the key reason? And, has it had any impact on the company?
Yeah, thanks for having me on this show. Let me give you this background that on the global market size, on the fiber industry, the market continues to be very, very bullish. In the current calendar year also, we see decent growth happening across all the markets, including China on its own. And that is driving the overall industry, and Sterlite, being the global player, is getting benefit out of it. As far as this report, which you're talking about from Haitong, price getting corrected to 35%, I think this is something which is not true, because we have seen that prices on the long-term basis have always remained in $7.50 to $8.50 kind of range. And what we see today, the so-called correction, till today also the prices are in that range of about $7.50, $8. So from our perspective, this is not a major correction. We used to operate on long-term basis in this range of about $8, $8.50, $7.50. And currently we see that kind of price range. On the top of that, we are also sitting in long-term order book, which is almost like 5,500 crore on product side. Overall, as a company, we have 11,000 crore order book, which gives us a decent visibility in terms of volume as well as pricing. So from Sterlite perspective, we are not really getting impacted on the what is happening. And what this pricing is also being talked about, these are some of the short-term spot pricing, which maybe people are talking about getting corrected. But if you look at from the large fiber player perspective, these are not the things which are affecting any of the players.
What's the spot price right now, Anupam?
So spot price is maybe about $7.50 in that range. But these are the long-term average pricing. If you look at from our perspective, we have always operated at this range of $7.50, $8, and we have made decent margins at these.
Okay, but spot prices are at $7.50. What were they, say, 3 months ago? Have the spot prices come down? We take your point about long-term being, resilient.
Absolutely.
What about spot prices?
Absolutely. So long-term spot prices were about $9.50, $10, and those have corrected to $7.50. But very few contracts get done on those prices. The industry has been operating at a long-term average now, and that has the people never operated. Like for example, for us, we were not operating at $10 kind of pricing. So for us, $8.50 is the reasonable pricing, and we continue to say that we have made money even in $8.50. We continue to make money at this price levels, and to assure our investors and everybody that whatever we committed in terms of FY20 delivery, that 100 million target, which is tripling of our profit from FY17, we are very much on track on that number. Even FY19, what we have given, we'll continue to deliver that. our past 5-year growth has been quite impressive, and we continue to believe that that kind of growth will continue.
We take your
driven
point.
by
We take your point there,
fiber.
Anupam.
Sure.
If you can tell us a little about your long-term order book itself. The average realization you said would be around $8.5. How much of these long-term contracts are coming up for renewal in the next 1 year, and would you be able to command the same price for the next one?
So the contracts which are there will have a renewal cycle over next 1 year. So not all of them will fall due for renewal on the immediate basis. And we might see some correction happening based on the spot pricing trend. We might see some 30-40 cents coming down. But I think if you look at from our perspective, it's not a significant
correction. In terms of orders coming up for renewal in the next 1 year?
Sorry?
If you could tell us the quantum of orders coming up for renewal in the next 1 year, you said some of them would be coming by?
Yeah, so I don't have the granular details of how much order will be coming in, but on an average, I don't see correction of more than 30-40 cents on the overall realization which we have. So if you were operating at about 830, 840, we might get at about $8.
And your EBITDA per unit would be how much?
So we don't talk in terms of EBITDA per unit, but we operate at about 30% kind of number, and we believe that we will be able to maintain that number in our fiber business.
Okay, so your margins will be close to about 30%.
Yes.
Okay, do you expect prices to remain around this $7.5 per FKM, or do you expect a recovery in the optic fiber prices?
I think on a long-term basis, I see that the industry will continue to be growing, and whatever short-term reaction we are seeing, that will again correct back to close to that $8 range. And that's a fundamental belief we have. We have seen industry moving in either of the direction for a short term, which we saw pricing moving to $8.5 within a year. They have come back to $8. So I see this small correction which we have seen going to $7.5, again shifting back to $8.5.
Right, Anupam, before we let you go, your order book, the last time was around 9,500 crores. What does it stand at now? If you could break it up in terms of optic cable fibers as well as services and the margin differential between the two?
So as on 30th September, when we declared our result, our order book was 9,500 crore. And we have been able to, we have received one order of Mahanet, which was 1,500 crore. In the month of November, which makes our order book at 11,000 crore, and the breakup of that order book is roughly about 5,500 crore is on the product side, and 5,500 crore is on the services side. This is broadly 50% breakup. On the product side, we have margin in the range of about 25-26% overall, with a blend of fiber and fiber cable, and on the services and software side, we have a margin of about 12%. So blended margin could be in the range of about 20% or so on this order book.
Okay, but that would be lower than the kind of margins you've been enjoying, right? So say your average margins in the last few quarters would be closer to that, 22-23% mark. Now you're talking about 20% margins.
So we need to see this. This is the order book spread we are talking about, where we have 50% spread in product order book versus services order book. So that's why this margin is appearing as 20%. But when we deliver in the revenue, the mix of product is still 75% and services is about 25%. And that's why our margins are on the higher side. So we have always maintained that we look at margin on business wise, and the overall margin of the company is a blend of these two margins. So depending on which business contributes more, so far products has been about 75%. With large order book coming in services business, definitely the share of services might increase, and therefore you might see the margin on company level because of the blend might coming down to about 20-22%. But if you look at from the respective businesses wise, which are individually also growing, I don't see a challenge on that. So definitely as a company, we will have blended margin, which will have impact of services business. But from ROC perspective, which is again one more important metric which we measure, We are operating at plus 30%, and we believe that we will be in that range.
Right, Anupam, thanks a lot for joining in. Wish you good luck. The stock up around 2%, has corrected about 24% in the last 1 month. But developments happening in the political arena. Our sister channel CNN News 18 says, or we're getting it from there, that BSP's Mayawati says she will back Congress in Madhya Pradesh and will also back Congress if required in Rajasthan. So support coming in for Congress.